Wednesday night hump. We are here to talk about, well, actually, tonight is actually a little bit different. Tonight, we're actually going to label this the worst, what did I call it? The worst guitar live stream ever. And if you're here, then, you've already ruined my plan, but thanks anyway. I appreciate it. Um, Before I get started, I always want to thank everybody for taking their time to watch this live stream. It means a lot to me that you take your time. Time's a valuable thing, and spending a little bit of your time with me this evening is really greatly appreciated because it seems like that kind of has fallen off a cliff a little bit. I'm going to talk about that tonight, actually. That is going. It's not a bait and switch. Actually, we're going to talk about this and why I titled tonight's live stream the worst guitar channel live stream ever. Hey Ben, how you doing? I don't know if Scott's here or not, and I'm getting some weird things going on over here in my live feed, in my chat feed. There you are. Oh, okay. Didn't know you were here, Scott. Welcome. Hey Scott, by the way, man, I like that guitar. That's really nice, man. You guys go over to Scott's channel, take a look at his short he just put out on his Strat. I like that pickguard. I consider that's like a pearl, like a pearlless type of pickguard. I was considering getting something like that myself. Um, for the one that I just painted. I'm considering. And I like the original pickguard because it's like 25 years old. It's got that that old look that they get after a while. But that one looked nice, really nice. All right, yeah. So you know, I usually talk a little bit that Dave Murray strat is all about those pickups. Yeah, I'd like to hear that, man. I'm, and what kind of pickups are in there, by the way? I'm curious, if you don't mind me asking. I'm supposed to be answering your questions. Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, Scott will be answering our questions. I told you it was the worst YouTube guitar live stream ever. It's starting out great already. The host is asking questions. Nah, guys, apparently YouTube pulled the plug on me in a way recently. My last stream kind of bombed, and my new video is in the witness protection program. And I figured, I might as well just lean in. I'm kind of one of those guys when the chips are down, then, I lean in on what little chips I got left. And maybe if I promise it'll be terrible, then the algorithm will leave me alone instead of picking on me. Um, and so that's why I titled this tonight. Scott, what's the name of your channel? A while back, I remember trying to find it with the. Hey, why don't you do that, Scott? Why don't you post a link to your channel, please, so everybody can take a look at it? Seymour Duncan. Ah, I see. I see. Yeah, I'm curious about those. Wow. And the clean, I'm all about the cleans. If they have a nice clean tone, then 9 times out of 10, when you run them through, a little bit of juice, they sound good. But that sounds nice. Yeah. So if you're here, type something in the chat. Tell me, whatever's on your mind tonight. And I'm going to go into a semi rant a little bit here tonight. I don't usually do this, but I will point out the obvious. I often quote that line from the Batman trilogy, the Dark Knight trilogy. Thank you, Scott. Everybody go over there. If you have not had the chance, go over there and subscribe. And take a look at the guitar. It's a beauty. And I really like that color. I'm fond, as you know, I'm fond. I've got one that's that color as well. I'm fond of that. That finish. In the Dark Knight trilogy, Detective Gordon, or by this time he's Chief Detective Gordon, states that you're a detective now. He says to a young Dick Grayson, you're not allowed to believe in coincidences. And I have noticed. Now I've got videos. First of all, I'll say this: I've got videos on this channel that have 200,000 plus, you know, I think 100,000 plus, 150,000. I've got some that are in the tens of thousands. I have some that are in the 2,000s. And of course, in the ones in the beginnings, I have in the double digits. But recently on my live streams, I have been doing, good job, Ben. Check it out. um, I have noticed that I was climbing up there. I was starting to turn significant numbers on my live stream. And suddenly, it's like it's like the cover was literally pulled out from underneath me. And because that last live stream, the one previous to that did 640, and the last live stream hasn't even hit double digits yet. That's odd. You know, that's too strange to be a coincidence. Especially when all the live streams leading up to that point were starting um, to really increase. I was starting to see an incremental climb, and I said, "Well, these live streams are great. I'll continue to do that." Now, the regular content I put out a video, just a short one, five. I want to keep it as short as possible, 5 6 minutes, about burn through. A video like that I view as a long tail video. Somebody down the line is going to want to look up that particular subject. They'll find that video and it'll go that direction. So it'll have legs over time, but still, even that one hasn't even hit 50 views, which even for me and my channel, that is strange. So, you know, I don't know. Maybe I said something wrong about Fender. They made a few calls and I'm done. Maybe I picked the worst thumbnail in history, you know, or maybe, I was just never that guy. Somehow, and you would think, and I mentioned the numbers on some of those videos, especially two of them that are in the hundreds of thousands. If 10% of the people who watch that video had subscribed, I'd be, in, the 10,000 zone with my subscribers. But um, it's very strange. So instead of getting mad about it, instead of because they want to play these games with the algorithm and my channel. You know what? Fine, that's fine. It makes me even freer to say things that maybe I wouldn't say or talk about things that maybe I wouldn't talk about generally. Because I do edit myself. Believe it or not, I do. But since that seems to be the response from the YouTube algorithm, uh, or there was something strange where I was being either that or I was being pumped up artificially. I can't figure. I don't know, but it was like a roller coaster, and it was very sudden too. So, since this is the worst live stream ever, I decided to talk about the worst guitar moments I've ever had. I like to hear about some of the worst guitar moments that you guys have ever had. Broken strings on stage, forgot the solo, borrowed someone's amp and blew it up, lay it on me. I'm going to lay a few on you. And I'm just going to talk about the worst situations I've had with guitars. Keeping along with the theme of the Worst Guitar Channel live stream. I made 2,000 plus videos. My average count is 2. Yeah, it's okay. That's a good place to start because one of the current themes that's going on out there that I kind of touched on a little bit. Hey, Mike, how you doing? I'm here. I am here to say your stuff is great, Mike. Or the big guitar makers put you on a list for playing non-authentic made in Japan great guitars. Yeah, there's something going on there. I just don't know. But in any case, it's okay because I got you guys. Hey, and I'm good. See, always goes back to I'm good. But it is a little odd, if just a percentage of those people who did watch my videos and subscribed, I'd be up there. But we're going to keep with the theme. I'm going to keep it light. I'm not, when it gets like this, when it's just so ridiculous and so obvious that there's some strange stuff going on there. This major theme I was starting to say out there about guitar channels being on the decline because there's only so many things that you can talk about, so many things that you could say. And again, there's so many, and then even I have noticed that guys that review new gear, their numbers are starting to drop down as well. And these are guys that used to have some pretty substantial numbers. So there's a little bit of truth to that, is what I'm seeing in general. However, I, to me, everything has its peaks and flow. Its ups and downs. And this may be a valley for guitar. We had a pretty good peak during the disease that shall not be named, and I think that that was probably an abnormality. Was it not normal? Was abnormal? Or as in Young Frankenstein, Abby Normal. what brain did you take? Oh, I took it from this guy named Abby Normal. So maybe this is just the true trajectory that this is going. So anyway, like I said, I wasn't going to let it get to me, but the drop off that I've had is just, it's not natural. It's odd. And I think anybody would agree if they looked at my numbers. In any case, had I told you guys my worst guitar moment ever. It started out when I went to go get guitar lessons. I don't know if you guys are familiar with this story, but I wanted to play guitar. I was 10 years old. I've been playing piano at that point, taking piano lessons. We had a piano in the house, so I could practice at home. And also, I would go to the woman's house to take piano lessons. But I wanted to play guitar for the same reasons now that I like playing guitar. Ironic, because you can't lug. I mean, well, now you can, but back then in the '70s, there was no foldable piano like that you could unfold and play like there is now. Um, so it had its limitations that I thought the guitar would, take care of. So I told you my dad got a guitar from his buddy that had been sitting in the window since the '60s, and the strings had never been changed. My father is music instrument illiterate, although he can read music, but he never had any desire to play any. He likes singing. He's an a tenor professionally actually now because he's been paid to do it in his retirement. But you know, got it to class full of people my age, maybe a little older. Got the guitar out. Teacher says, "Okay, we're going to tune the guitars." He comes over to help me tune mine, and the first thing that happens, of course, is the E string. Bing! Class kind of giggles. He said, "That's all right. I got some spare strings." He said, "Let's do the other one." Tunes it up. Bing! And I was so embarrassed. I think because of that embarrassment in front of that class, in front of all, with that happening, that it kind of cured me of any kind of embarrassment that I could have later on stage. Somebody asked me if Scott asked me if I'm embarrassed about singing on stage, and I perform on stage. I said, no, I kind of love it. I actually feel more comfortable in front of thousands of people like I used to in Japan. And, you know, you have an experience like that, it would turn you off from guitar. And I have to admit, there was about 3 years there where I didn't touch guitar. But by the time I turned 13 in 1980, I said, I'm getting back into guitar again, and I bought my own. I learned not to ask my dad for musical instruments because he would go down to a garage sale and get me like one of those washboards, with some catgut on it. So, I just had to be honest with you that after that embarrassment, I never really got embarrassed about things anymore. Um, and honestly speaking, I mean, musically, I'm trying to think on stage. I, I had a situation where I was playing for a girl in college. This is the second time where I wasn't even embarrassed. I was just like, whatever. And my dad even had come out for this point. So I was playing Janet Jackson's "Let's Wait a While," and I was playing the piano, you know. And the girl got up on stage, and immediately she started singing out of key. And I wasn't experienced enough at that point to shut that out and keep playing. It threw me off. So I just started and I just completely just lost it. And later on, my dad says, "What the hell was that?" And the girl had the nerve to come over and get mad at me. And, and that's a true story. And then years later, I was asked to write some music for a play. And I wrote a kind of a ragtime, kind of bluesy, old Big Mama Thornton kind of song. And I rehearsed it with this woman that they wanted to have sing it. And they put the play on. She did okay, she did okay in the rehearsal. And she got up on stage, and I'm sitting there on the piano and I'm playing, and whole room full of people. Okay, this is not some little, this is a big, big room. I'm up there playing piano. She comes out to do her part, and she's off key. Now, if I got to the point where I am now, I could possibly try to figure out what key she's in and adjust and go and shift down. I could probably do that now, but I wasn't able to do that then. So what did I do? I said, I learned my lesson. I put my head down. I completely ignored her and I just played the song through. Played the song through. I let her just warble through that. I put my head down and I just played through that number. And when it was done, I sat back down, grabbed my bass for the next song, and moved on. And so sometimes those embarrassments, sometimes those moments where things like that happen, they can set you up to to make you more professional down the line. So I never felt bad about the worst guitar or performing moments that I've had. I've kind of taken them in stride because each one of them has eventually somehow led to a learning moment or a moment where I was like, I'm not going to let that happen again. So there is that. There is that. Scott, I'm a very introverted person, but for some reason I have no embarrassment about playing badly and singing horribly. In any other part of life, I'd be embarrassed as fuck to put my vulnerabilities out there. Yeah, that's the beauty of being an artist. See, and that's the crazy thing too. I'm gonna go on a tangent here for a second, but I'm gonna get right back to that because it is kind of related. Before I went on live, and I almost was late coming on live, I was watching that old video from over 10 years ago of the crazy to hot axis as far as women is concerned. If you guys ever seen that, so this is this axis is your crazy, from 4 to 10 because there's no woman that's less crazy than a 4. So it goes from 4 to 10, and then here the hot, that from 0 to 10, and here's your axis there, and and anything below a 5 and this crazy is the nose. I was watching that, and that cracked me up. I have watched that a dozen times, and I have got to say that that is probably one of the funniest things that I've seen because you can apply that to a lot of things. And getting back to being an artist, you can apply that to being an artist because an artist, you got the crazy zone and you've got the talent zone here. It's not hot. It's crazy. Still is your your vertical axis, but horizontal axis becomes talent. And you find out from that 0 to 10 talent, and that, because every artist is introverted and a little crazy, 4 to 10, same thing, you'll find that there's a lot of parallels. Prince was certainly up there at a 10, but he was up there, at a 9.5 as far as crazy is concerned, along with most of these cats, And so, and I think society, when you see them write about musicians and plays and movies and TV shows, they always kind of put that little wink and a nod, like, he's a guitar player. He's a little off. So actually, in that regard, we've been given a little bit of a free pass, I guess. But putting your vulnerabilities out there is part of being an artist. Like I said, there's no lyric in all the thousands, the hundreds that I've put down, but the thousands that I've written down on paper, all of those lyrics are true. I've never made up anything. Everything is always from something. So there's that. I think you should rename your YouTube channel The Amsterdam Guitar Man. That's actually not a bad idea. There may be something to that. People kind of like that. At least they want somebody who's outside their scene. And for some reason, people sure do come here. Can't swing a dead cat around here by the tail without hitting a tourist these days. And yeah, that's just the truth of it. I'll consider that, actually. I think it's because I'm so bad that there's nowhere to go but up. Well, Scott, self-depreciation is one thing, but if you're doing it, and and by the way, I've observed what you do. I wouldn't call it bad at all, not even close. Actually, you really should pursue it more. In my opinion, So don't put yourself down. Crazy to hot ratio, yeah. You guys gotta see that video. That thing cracked me. I mean, I had tears coming out of my eyes. Just like literally, it's a good thing to go live in a good sense of humor as well, a good humor as well. But I was crying when I was watching that video because it's so true. It's so true. Especially living here in Amsterdam. It is just, yeah, it's so true. So there's that. I don't know, guys. For some reason, I'm not loved here on YouTube. I just think that, maybe somehow or another, I'm not doing shorts too. See, I noticed that maybe that's another reason why I'm getting punished, because I'm not participating doing YouTube shorts. And, I have this thing about YouTube shorts where I find them useful for getting a quick condensed version of some things. So I do watch shorts myself. In terms of producing them for myself, for the type of content that I'd like to produce, getting something down into 5-second, segments, 10 seconds, 15 second segments is really not something, or 30 seconds, I guess, is the top, or does it go to a minute? Anyway, under a minute's worth of time is not really, my thing. However, maybe I will increase the amount of shorts I do. I know a lot of people use a program called CapCut. I've been warned by some software guys to stay away from that. But I can create them myself. But I think I'm going to make them as irreverent as possible. So if you guys see a short from me from now on, like me teaching my cat how to play the blues, it's going to be not the same as that, but it's going to be irreverent like that. And I'll put out a crap load of them. If I think of something and I can grab my camera real quick and make one, I'll do that. You can bet on that. So, okay, fine. I'll play that game. I'll do the shorts game. Do I think it's going to make a difference? No. again, people who watch my channel don't watch it for that kind of thing. My opinion. I may be wrong. I may be wrong. But there is that. Mike says you grew up in Southern California tourist area and can get away from it. Can and cannot get away from it even if you move to Holland. Yeah, you know, but I don't know. Holland is, Amsterdam is a small little town. It's a small town. It's not a big city at all. Small little hamlet, I guess, would be the British equivalent word. And I think that Los Angeles, because it being one of the biggest cities in the world, you didn't feel it like you feel it here, the tourism. Here it's like in your face all the time. And it gets a little, it's a bit much sometimes, but I like, my place here because it's up above the crowds. Um, and my backyard is faces a huge courtyard where there's nobody except for birds and trees. So in that regard, it's okay, but it's something. When I was growing up in LA, you really didn't even notice the tourists unless you went to like, you know, Disneyland or maybe after Pretty Woman if you went up to Beverly Hills because that blew up. It's you really or Hollywood, of course, Hollywood Boulevard, stuff like that. But or the Pier. I never went to those places. Most LA people didn't go there. Interestingly enough, to those places. So I can honestly say that this is the worst stream ever. But I do want to pause right here halfway through and say this is the best audience ever. I want to thank all you guys for showing up and for tuning in and supporting this channel. I'm doing this a little tongue in cheek tonight. I decided, you know what? Instead of getting mad about it, I'm not gonna even write a script. I'll put some bullet points up about some things that I might touch upon. But I'm just, and I may or may not even, and half the stuff I'm going to talk about is not going to be about guitars anyway. Um, and I'm just going to just really try to just have fun with it because at the end of the day, having such a great audience like you guys, support that you've shown me, it's enough. It really is enough. It really is. Mike, did you ever write a song called Upstairs to the Right? I did. Upstairs, yeah, you'll find it somewhere. You'll find it upstairs. So you'll find that on Spotify. It's the only place that I know of that you can find that. I think. I think. And interestingly enough, upstairs to the right. No, it's not here. You can find it on Spotify. That's one of my college songs. So I wrote that song while I was in college. Upstairs to the right, there lived a girl. She was so fine. Dressed funky because she hated the sun. Had a heart like a hotel, room for everyone. Kind of rowdy, but that's all right. She made the kind of love that'll leave you blind. Now she's always on my mind. I'm blessed with a heartache most of the time. And like a hurricane, she blew my cool and everything. So beautiful the way she came and gave me her love. So that was the first bit of that song. So that song is, again, a song that's from, and then later on it became the title of my production company and my studio. But that song is about it's always been about a real girl. I lived in my college dorms, they were bungalows. So I lived on the bottom bungalow, and you went upstairs, and there was a bungalow to the left, and there was a bungalow to the right, and the girls who stayed in the bungalow to the right, that's who I was writing about. I used to go up there, and everything, if you listen to the lyrics of that song, if you find it, it's an old one. Yeah, but it is. I think it's on my Songs from the Equator album. But I wrote that song in college, and Songs from the Equator album, and that's a true song too. That's about a real girl. She really did exist. The lyrics to that song are exactly what happened. It tells the story all the way through, and yeah, A+ improv vocal mic. Yeah. Upstairs to the right, there lived a girl. Ooh, she was so fine. That's how it goes. Thanks for asking that question. That's a song I haven't thought about in a long time. But yeah, all the songs, like I said, when every lyric for every song of mine is about something that's real. I won't hide that. When it gets into the esoteric, like "You Are a Star," as a matter of fact, with that video, you can find that one on YouTube. "You Are a Star." I actually made a text video so that you could read the lyrics that I wrote. And that's when I'm getting into my esoteric view, because most of that language is occult language. Most of that language I took from occult language. I think you need to write the "I'm Good" anthem. Let me see this. You got a link here. Yeah, it is. So this, yeah, 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 yeah. So yeah, great. Thank you, Scott. Yeah, so this is on my on the Songs from the Equator album. By the way, I love that artwork. That artwork was done by my nephew, Brandon. And I did this album 2017. Yeah, yeah, upstairs to the right. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, this is it. This is a great album. I recorded this. This is the first. This is another Halfer album. Half of this album was recorded in my studio in Japan, the original Upstairs to the Right studio, the little itty bitty, sweaty attic in my house that I converted in Chilrinken, that I converted over to a studio, and then moved to Singapore and set up the studio in Singapore. Started writing like serious TV commercials. Really got a good, nice gig with nice fat checks. Um, and I wrote the other half of this album there as well. This album is one of it's got some of my favorite songs. It's not my favorite. There's some rough vocal work on this that I'd like to go back in and do again. But without any question, the best song that I've ever written, my favorite song of all, "The Lion," is on this album. So if you ever get a chance to listen to that song is me playing. I play all the instruments, um, the drums, but the drum I just played it. My famous play 8 bars and loop that, and then play on top of that. Play live, add stuff on top of that. The bass, the acoustic guitar, the piano, and my vocal. I think it is probably the finest song I've ever performed. When I listen to this day, particularly the acoustic guitar solo, I actually realize that I'm a decent guitar player. It's that song that I can point to and say, if you can play that, then you're okay. If you can't, then don't talk smack. But this album is a good one. Good. That's a great topic. Boy, that was great. Thank you, Scott, for bringing that up. That took me back to this and talking about music, which, again, like I said, this is a terrible guitar live stream. Well, actually, I did talk about guitars there, didn't I? Yeah, I guess again, really avoid. I can't be as bad as I want. But yeah, the production work and the studio too was rough because I hadn't really got it. all dialed in yet. But so this album is but it's a good one. I think some of my best work is on this album. I was happy. I was happy. I was happy. I was like, holy crap! I've got, a house in Singapore I'm renting. I've got a contract with with this company to do this music. You know, I can build the studio to my specs. That was that on top of the time that I spent playing. It was grueling, but I still loved it. Playing in Japan back in the '90s, probably my best times musically, creatively and financially. So there's that. Um, all right. So where are we at here? You know, I just really think that YouTube has it out for me. That's the only explanation I can give. My content is regular. I'm putting it out regularly. I, and I, again, like I said, other than the shorts, I can't see what it is that, is putting me in the penalty box. But while I'm here sitting in the penalty box, the show must go on. It's true. I've seen a lot of YouTubers get, in this situation, and it causes bad feelings, and as well as it should, as well as should. But in my case, you put me in the penalty box. It's always been my habit to, bust out the chocolate bar, kick back, put my feet up, and take it as an opportunity to have a rest. So tonight is that kind of rest. Again, I didn't write a script. I'm just riffing. You guys can ask me questions or bring things up, or as I get into my tangents, I'm free to go off into my tangents tonight. So I might break off into a couple more tangents here. Who can say? I like the one of talking about the album songs from the equator. I you know I have very very fond memories of writing that album and recording it, and yeah. Mike, can you explain microphone patterns and where and when to use with which type of microphone? Um, I don't understand microphone patterns. In terms of microphones, in order which ones are best used and best in what situations. Sure. I could talk about that. Just help me out and clarify that a little bit. Maybe I'm getting old. No, does not compute. Just clarify for me on that, Scott. But that sounds like a great question. And it's funny. I, I was talking to my uncle Carlton because he called me up because he bought Reason and he wanted to put it in Cubase. So he was having a hard time getting his Reason software that he just bought into Cubase. And I had to kind of walk him through that a little bit. And I found that to be hilarious. That, my Uncle Carlton, by the way, guys, is 83 years old. He's 83 years old, but he's still of the mindset at 83 years old to sit in front of a computer, buy this Reason that was $200. So he spent $200 to buy that software because he liked the sounds, he liked the production, where he wanted to do some sampling and vocal sampling and things like that. But to be his age and still and to be dealing with now, granted, he cuts his tracks to his 8 track, his digital 8 track, but he uses his computer to do some in Cubase to do some sequencing. And that's amazing to me. I hate it now. As a matter of fact, I'm seriously trying to get the bread together to walk away from it. But at 82 years old, he's still doing it. But he called me up the other day. I found that amazing. And so we got him going. I think we got and had been up all night too. He sleeps during the day and stays up at night. which is what the life that I got away from. I used to do that. That used to be me, and which is one of the reasons why I can do this live stream most of the time. Most of the time, I'm getting a little older, but and I got the energy, but that lifestyle, wow, it's crazy. Conroy versus condenser, oh, polar pattern, I guess it's called. Um, you know, Scott, I can't. You found an Achilles heel with me. A microphone, you know, like this, versus, an SM57, for example. Do I have my SM57 here? What microphones do I have? Here's another one. These condenser microphones. Much respect to your uncle, a real old school bluesman. Yeah. These condenser microphones. And where's my SM57? I used that when I was recording that track as well, so I got my microphones out. Anyway, in any case, microphones like these um, are good for picking up room when you're micing cabinets. So it depends upon the application. So for a guitar cabinet, SM57 off center and one of these backed up to pick up the room is your standard usage. In terms of patterns and things like that, I never got into that, to be honest. I just learned which are the good mics for doing certain things. Drums would be a little bit different. You take two SM57s and hang them just over your snare and your ride, depending upon where you put it at. Then you got to get into how you're gonna mic the kick drum, and if you're gonna mic the room. I generally just like two mics and a room mic, two overheads and a room mic for drums, which is why my drums, when you hear that, they sound the way they do. Maybe my kick drum could be a little beefier, but I EQ it. But room sound, I'm a big believer in room, and condenser mics like these are really really good for getting that room. I would always have one of these somewhere on. I'd always have two mics. Even when I'm recording acoustic guitar or mandolin, I've got one of these over on the other side of the room, and I can pull down the more closer mandolin, the SM57 I'm using, or no, I didn't even use that. Like I use this Behringer to record the mandolin, and then with the room mic, and then when I'm mixing, I got that I can get a little bit more room or a little less, the more directed sound, because the mandolin is a very harsh instrument. So in that case, I'm using two condensers. So yeah, that's all I know. I'm not that deep in the woods as far as that is concerned with microphones. I just know what to use, situation wise. Reason for asking is I want to avoid live guitar bleeding into my vocal microphone. Um, Maybe something akin to AKG 414. Those are good at isolating and being a little bit more direct. So look that up. I know that for a fact because there was a recession where we had a situation like that, as I seem to recall. And the engineer brought out a 414 and took care of that pretty good. You're not going to get 414 that's a $4,000 mic. You just have to figure out what a 414 is and how that works, and that's the best trail I can send you down from my experience. I know what you mean. I know what you mean. Also, also placement as well with a live situation. Um, I would make Kago or we would turn we would turn them away this direction, And then there's of course my live feed where I'm getting my playback on the floor, and that helped a lot as well. Steven, how you doing? So there's those that you can do that as well, um, where everything is placed on stage. All right. I'm going to close these notes because they're absolutely useless to me. And I am going to open up a new set of notes here. And on this worst Guitar Channel live stream ever, what are we talking about tonight? Well, it's my way. I'm in the penalty box, Stephen, with YouTube for some reason. My live streams were going up and up and up the numbers. You know, they send me the data every month so I can see how many subscribers, how things were doing. My live streams were going up and up and up for the last few months. And all of a sudden, it took a dramatic drop. That last live stream that I did, it hasn't even hit the triple numbers, still in the double digits. And that hasn't happened. It's not the subject, and also with my regular content, that also, I mean, some of these things I'll hit low triple digits on. That's fine, but low double digits doesn't happen. So I've been put in the penalty box with YouTube. Again. I started this out by saying as they say in the Batman trilogy, in the Dark Knight trilogy, when Detective Gordon says to a very young Robin, "You're not allowed." A new detective. You're a detective now. You're not allowed to believe in coincidences. There's no coincidence that this is occurring. For some reason, my channel has been put into the penalty box. I don't know why. I hope it has nothing to do with me rejecting that AI offer that was made to me a week or so ago. I was talking about that company who wanted to use my content for AI training. I said no. I don't know, but it's strange. New song idea: algorithms and blues. Yeah. Your I'm good is better for your viewers, not for the new gear manufacturers. No, yeah, yeah. And I won't, because I bristle at the fact that they're producing these guitars unnecessarily. My gosh, there's enough guitars in this world to go to everybody who wanted one 50 times over. Seriously, and they'd have their choice too. And so no, I'm gonna really try to pivot myself more towards uh, taking the stuff that we have and making it good. Basically just doing refinish work on any and everything, basically, And that's the direction I want to go with this channel, because I believe and I see that with things being I saw a guitar channel today, a guy I like. I don't know why I watch these random YouTubers, but this guy in the States, I guess I miss the States a little bit more than I admit I do, because I watch a lot of American TV. I was watching this guy talking about his used car lot, and he can't even sell $2,500 guitar cars. He's selling used cars. But now we're talking about early 2000s, mid 2005 beaters with high mileage on them, but they still run, and he can't sell them for $2,500. A car that is necessary to get somebody from their residence to a job, or the job is within the car to do deliveries in order to come up with with the life that you need in order to keep going. And we're sitting up here talking about $1,500 Epiphones, $3,000 Les Pauls, $2,500 Strats. And the ironies of that, seeing that on that channel, of course, that's just not going to fly by me. I'm going to think to myself, my gosh, what are we really talking about over, I said that YouTube is a high school cafeteria, and there's all these different tables, and we're over here at the Guitar Channel table. Really, what are we doing? What are we doing? This is definitely not the worst live stream ever. Thank you, Steve. Thanks, Steve. But yeah, a lot of channels reporting noticing a difference recently. Yeah, there's a big drop off. You know, again, the focus is not here. It's an ad revenue as well. I can't see how the Guitar Channel space is really going to be making a lot of revenue uh, for YouTube, where they would want to focus on this, this table of ours. Really, it just makes sense to me because I don't see that, especially now with things being the way they are out there in the world. Bro, we live a great time for cheap electric guitars from 200 to 600. We can get a lot of them now. Yeah, and used too. And even you can get some sweet, sweet, sweet guitars used for 600 bucks. I mean, sweet ones. And and to be honest, you really wouldn't need any more because the ones that are already existing would go out into circulation. Eventually, they would all find a home or get in a collection and get sold off, and there'd be more than enough as it stands right now if they never made a single solitary guitar anywhere ever again. There'd be more than enough to go around, and even for future generations. More than enough. Steve Channel, hey, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Let's go to it's all over there. As a matter of fact, let's go hit that up. Make sure we bookmark that. Awesome. Yeah, thank you, Scott, for that. Appreciate that. Yeah, everybody go over to Steve's channel and you give him much love. I've gone over to his channel a few times. I'm just crazy about your look. I think you're one of the coolest looking guys I've seen. Not a man crush. Don't get it twisted. Just saying, you got a good look to you, man. I like it. I dig it. I really do. I dig your style. Um, I agree it's a good time for lower costs because it's just we just have to. When they put us in the penalty dot box, there's two ways you can go. You get pissed off and you can scream and or you can just kick back and say, "Hey, this is a minute where I can just relax and not even worry about it." And maybe riff on some things that maybe ordinarily you'd be a little afraid of because apparently what I've been talking about is not working. So let me go off into one of my tangents tonight. I decided, let's break free from the mold that I set myself in. Self-imposed. But still. And it's like that Queen song. I want to break free. It's all cosmetic surgery. Yeah, yeah. I'm fortunate, man. Myself pushing 60, I'm doing all right. Um, you know, honestly, guys, the guitar YouTube environment is it ain't what it used to be. To put it mildly, to put it kindly. But this doesn't mean that there's no meaning or relevance to it. I still think it's extremely relevant for young people because us older cats, we've been around the block, we've seen a few things, we've experienced enough where we can start sharing on YouTube, and I think that's a good thing. It may not benefit us directly in the seeable, current time, but maybe down the line it may turn somebody, into the next Van Halen. You just don't know. And putting out good information is probably the best place to start. I was watching a YouTube channel today where the guy was talking about Motown's DI bass system. How was James Jamerson getting that bass sound? And he was saying, well, there's no such thing as a DI box at Motown. And then down in the comment section, you had a guy who had worked with the Motown engineer and said, yes, there was. So again, and by the way, and he gave a long response in great detail about how the device was made, who got Jamie Jamerson got one, another guy, Ray Croder got another one. It just went down the list of all these guys who had this box, and I found that to be hilarious. But again, that's a good thing too because we have people out there who are checking, and that's great because we don't have that Chinese whisper situation that I grew up with, where you heard something that heard it from a friend who heard it from a friend who heard it from another. You've been messing around, Yeah, we don't have to go through that. We can check things. We can. So again, I'm not mad about being put in the penalty box. That's fine. I'm still gonna put out the best information I can. I really am, and there's just that. Raise your children or AI will. Well, that's a little late. Pushing 60. You're doing well. Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, pushing 60. So I had my 58th birthday last month. I can't believe it myself. They say that time flies when you're having fun. You know what? I guess I must have had a lot of fun because time has sure flown by. It's interesting. I mean, but then again, to be fair, guys, I never had kids. I never had kids, that I know of. I invested very heavily to make sure that that didn't happen. But I think that has a little bit to do with it too, maybe. And maybe this living around the world. I've lived in 5 countries now, so this traveling around the world doing music has certainly, I guess, maybe kept me young, kept me on my toes. That's for sure. That's for sure. So there's that. And again, I've been put. It's more than obvious that I've been put into the penalty box here. Hell, like I said, if 10% of the people who have seen my videos would sign up, I'd be up there with numbers. But I've never been able. I have this barrier where I keep hitting up against it and I can't get past it, and that's okay. I think again, like I said, when you have a quality audience, even a small one like I have here, it's okay. And when they put me in the penalty box like this, and apparently most of the guitar YouTube channels as well, you can just take the lemons and make lemonade, really kind of situation. I have 5 children. That's a side effect of a looker wife. just can't, just couldn't keep my hands off her. I can understand that. Having children is a blessing. I've had to substitute that with my pets that I've had. It's not the same thing at all. I'm not equating the two, but at least it's a place that I can express that kind of love, taking care of something. And that's a good thing. That's always good to, and it also keeps you rooted and grounded. I once I've started getting my dogs and cats, the idea of running around and doing those things, living that kind of life went away from me. I suppose if I had children, unless I was running away from them, man, I sure did see a lot of Japanese businessmen when I was living in Japan who did not want to go home. But in any case, guys, I'm going to turn these sour grapes into gelato. So I'm not going to continue that fruit metaphor. I'm not gonna let it upset me. It's okay. And like I said, we have fun here. We get together twice a week, Wednesday night, 11 p.m. Sunday night, 11 p.m. Central European time. That way we can catch as many people around the world as possible in the morning, afternoon, and evening, depending upon where you are. And we're not going to let this deter us. If again, if one person watches, maybe that one person may be that guy who I help out. You know, and that just kind of makes sense. For me. So it is a pleasure always to be here with you guys. Not going to read from Weird Scenes Inside the Can. We're going to leave that for Sunday because I want to tie that in with a possible subject in general that I'm going to talk about. So we'll cut it off here on the worst guitar channel live stream ever. You guys ruined it because I was hoping to get 0 viewers and all thumbs down. But somehow or another it turned out all right. Just like it normally does. We're in a valley right now. And my channel was starting to pick up momentum at a time when we hit a valley. And that's okay. It would be foolish for me to not just plow through. I've always been a plower. That sounded wrong. I've always tried to sally forth. I guess is the old term, And so certainly, I wish myself and all my fellow guitar channel YouTubers to sally forth, guys. Don't give in. Don't give up. And keep putting out content because really, there's some kid out there, some girl, some boy, who's going to watch maybe something that you do, and it's going to make a difference in their life musically. And that's really what you should be aiming to do when you have a YouTube channel, is to try to influence that next generation, because I had great mentors that influenced me. And it's one of the reasons why I can sit here and try to do the same. What is a play it forward, pay it forward, I guess. Yeah. All right, guys. Thank you. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Ben. Thank you. Can I get a channel, brother? I didn't see you. I'm sorry. Can I get a channel? I did not even know you were here. I always say hello to you. How you doing? Good to have you here. Thank you so much. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Scott, for moderating for me tonight. Thank you, guys, always. I'll see you on Sunday. Please go to Steve's channel. Go to check out Scott's guitar. Take a look at that album. If you're interested in my song Upstairs to the Right, go to Spotify on that link that Scott put up there in the chat, and take a listen to that song and that album, if you will, if you please, if you might. And until the next one, you guys take care. Bye bye.